We apologize. We relied on the jury hotline, which said this court was closed.
It did not say this court was closed. It did not say this court was closed.
Well, I would say on our behalf, Your Honor, that was the interpretation we had. I sent Ms. Holden an email last night asking her if she had any different information. I'm assuming she did not get my email because I did not get a response. And when we got up this morning, we started calling the courthouse and Superior Court clerk, and we're just not able to get a response. And made the wrong judgment call, obviously, but it was made in good faith, and we went to some effort, both through emailing the district attorney's office and attempted to contact the court system this morning for clarification. Otherwise, we would have been here because we're responsible.
Because all the notice in the media were that all our courts were open and would be open at 10 o'clock. Kristen Feather, the trial court administrator, has advised me that she left a voicemail at Mr. Gaskin's office yesterday and sent emails to all his email addresses notifying him of this. I also tried to call your phone, but it just rang and got no response. Just have a seat. Bring the defendant in, please. I am really disappointed that you were not more proactive in trying to determine what the public knew anyway, that this case would be tried starting at 10 o'clock. Be that as it is, we're ready to proceed.
Make sure all electronic devices are turned off at this time.
We're back in session. It's 11 o'clock. The defendant is present. Counsel for the defendant are present. I would notify counsel for the defendant that the jurors were here at 10 o'clock. We waited until about 20 after 10. I decided to send them to the jury lounge. I brought them into the courtroom. I brought your client into the courtroom. In the presence of your client, I advised them that you were not here, that I assumed there'd been some misunderstanding, and I accepted the responsibility for the fact that you weren't here and that it was my fault. Of course, it was not my fault and it was not my responsibility, but from the jury's perspective, that's who they are going to hold accountable for this delay. We're ready to proceed at this time. Tell the jurors to come on back up here and we'll bring them into the box. Emma? Great. Bring him in, please. All right, show on the record, please, that all the jurors are present, counsel and defendant are present. Again, folks, I apologize for the delay, and let's just say I'll accept responsibility for it. Again, don't concern yourself about that. Call the state's witness back. Good morning, Ms. Cadet.
Good morning.
You may proceed.
Shay, I think when we left off on Tuesday, we had been talking about the apartment, but I want to go back to a little bit more of Amanda's background. I believe you previously testified that she was at one point married to your father and at one point married to another man, Nicky, who's now deceased. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in between those, was there another marriage that your mother had?
Yes.
And who was that to?
Ron Adamson,
And what was his profession?
a lawyer.
And was he Amanda's divorce lawyer?
Yes.
And they eventually ended up getting divorced as well.
Yes.
And so at some point, you went with Amanda to the Virgin Islands, is that correct?
Yes.
And when there, Amanda started up this small business,
Yes.
and it was an art store.
Yes.
And then at some point after that is when you moved back to New York.
Yes.
And financially, if you know, what was Amanda's main source of income or capital at that point?
Whenever Nikki had died, there was property that was left to my mom, and as far as I know, there was a life insurance policy, and it had been put into a trust to where it gained capital every month, and there was a percentage of it that she was given as an allowance, and that's what we lived off of. Plus, whenever we lived in the Virgin Islands, there was the art supply store that had income after being open for an amount of time, and then she also bartended.
So Amanda had two jobs when you lived in the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
Okay. When you came back to New York, at that point, that's when Grant Case came and showed up on your doorstep on January 16th?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, Amanda and Grant moved down to North Carolina.
Yes.
And I believe you testified that that was so they could be closer to the kids
Yes.
in this custody dispute.
Yes.
Other than that, did Amanda have any other reason that she would come to North Carolina?
No.
And jumping forward a little bit to the summer of 2011, would you, these little boys, little Grant and Gentle, would you see them periodically?
Yes.
And would you babysit every once in a while?
Yes.
Aside from the week of July 13th, did you ever take them to Monkey Joe's?
Not before that, no.
And Amanda had Lily in June of 2011.
Yes.
Do you remember the date of Lily's birth?
She was born on June 9th.
And sometime around then, I guess Amanda's mother passed, is that correct?
On my 22nd birthday on June 7th.
And during this time, were the financial strings, I guess, in Amanda's life getting a little tighter?
Yes.
And how did you know that?
I know that in sometime around December of 2010, there was some jewelry that was pawned.
Do you remember what jewelry that was?
I know for sure that there was a diamond necklace, a Rolex, her engagement ring that Nikki had given her, or her wedding ring. I know that at some point Nikki had given her a green yellow diamond that someone gave him in Brazil on one of his fishing trips, and Grant took it to New York and sold it.
So, as 2011 progresses, you saw that there wasn't as much money around as there was in 2010 and back when you lived in the Virgin Islands.
Right.
And at that time, were you working as well?
I was working at Linwood Grill.
Now, moving on to the week of July, I guess 11th was a Monday. July 13th was that Wednesday. Were you aware of the custody agreement between Grant, Amanda, and Laura?
Yes.
And what was that custody agreement?
That Sunday night through Friday afternoon, my mom and Grant had the kids, and then Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, they would meet in Wilson and do the exchange at the Sheetz gas station, and then we would drive back and pick the kids up Sunday at 5.
And sometimes, did you go on those custody exchanges?
Yes.
One time specifically, were the kids in Kinston already, and Laura made you drive all the way to Wilson?
Yes.
And that was a frustrating experience for Amanda and you.
Yes, and it was raining, and we were 10 minutes away from where the kids were, and we had to drive an hour to pick them up.
And that was the level of attention that Laura gave to that custody agreement, that she made you drive all the way to Wilson to do that?
Yes.
Were you ever aware of Laura coming in the middle of the week to see the boys?
I had heard that Laura would come to Raleigh sometimes in the middle of the week and see the boys at Monkey Joe's, or take them to get food or something.
Had you ever heard of Laura going into Grant and Amanda's apartment?
I know that she, whenever my mom was in the last trimester of being pregnant with my sister, Laura had offered to drive to Raleigh to pick up the boys, because my mom was, she was almost 40 and she was pregnant, and she was overdue with my sister 11 days or 9 days. So Laura would offer sometimes to come and pick up the boys, but she never really, other than Gentle's birthday, I don't really remember Laura ever really being in the apartment. She would come to the door and stand in the entryway or stand outside and pick the boys up.
And at this time in 2011, how old was Amanda?
39.
Do you know when her birthday is?
April 8th.
So in July of 2011, was she 39 or 40?
She had just turned 39.
Okay. How tall was Grant Hayes?
5'5".
How tall is your mom?
5'8", 5'9".
Okay, so that week of July 13th, on July 14th, that Thursday, did you get a phone call in the morning from your mother?
Yes.
And did she call you, do you remember what time she called you?
Somewhere between 9 and 9:30.
And what did she tell you?
That she needed me to come pick up the boys and take them for a little while, that they were going to be moving to Kinston to stay with Grant's parents, and she needed me to watch the boys for a little while so that they could get some packing done and get boxes and prepare for the move on Saturday.
Had you heard of that move prior to Thursday?
There was talk about it because money was getting tight and they couldn't pay rent.
And when your mom called you, you asked for an hour and a half to get over to her apartment because you wanted to take a shower and things like that.
Yes, I had just woke up.
And what did she say?
That she needed me to come over there within a half hour. There were people waiting on me, that everybody had to get stuff done, and the girl at Monkey Joe's needed to go to the bank, so I needed to hurry up.
Okay. When you say the girl at Monkey Joe's needed to go to the bank, what do you mean by that?
Lauren Harris was the manager of Monkey Joe's, and I guess that is the person that Grant knew that worked at Monkey Joe's that was letting them in for free and helping them out, I guess, with the kids.
Okay. And you've been interviewed a couple times by detectives about this case, haven't you?
Yes.
And in any of those interviews, did you ever say anything about Lauren Harris?
No, I didn't really know. I didn't know who she was until I got to Monkey Joe's that day.
Okay. You told those detectives that your mom called you and said, I need you to come over now.
Yes.
Okay. And so you went over there and she gave you the boys, you held your sister for a couple minutes, and then you went to Monkey Joe's.
Yes.
And you're at Monkey Joe's for a couple hours, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And your mother called you at like 12:30 or 1 that day?
I had been trying to call her to find out what I was going to do for the boys for lunch, and I would get in touch with her and she would say, I'm right in the middle of something, I'll call you right back.
And when you called her, what phone number were you calling?
917.
And there was another phone number that ended in 8581, isn't that right?
That's Grant's phone number.
Okay. And so your mother's phone number is the one that ends in 7651?
Yes.
And both of those have a 917 area code?
Yes.
And both of those phones were working on that Thursday, July 14th.
Yes, as far as I know.
And your mom called you at 12:30 or 1 and said that they were going to need 2 more hours. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I had tried to figure out what I was going to do for the boys for lunch, and I don't remember if it was Grant or my mother who had told me that Lauren would give us pizza. And so we had pizza and the boys had ices. And I had spoken with my mother and she said that she needed a couple more hours to get a few more things done. So we continued to play at Monkey Joe's, and then by this time it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the boys were getting in trouble for hitting other kids, and they hadn't had a nap, and things were starting to get hectic, and I couldn't really control the kids anymore.
Okay. Your can I approach the witness?
You may.
Just looking at that. So at 12:30 or 1, your mom called and said something effective, we're going to need 2 more hours.
Yes.
And you told detectives that when they interviewed you as well.
Yes.
Okay. What time would you say you left Monkey Joe's that day?
Somewhere right around 4.
When you left Monkey Joe's, did you go to, where did you go?
I took the boys to Linwood Grill. I had a really good friend that worked over there as well, and I took them to go have brownies and ice cream.
Okay. And so you sat there with Little Gentle and Grant Forth and had ice cream?
Yes.
Okay. And did you eventually leave there and go back to Amanda and Grant's?
Yes.
And when you went back to Amanda and Grant's apartment, did you actually go inside?
I did.
Okay. And what did you see when you went inside there?
My mom was standing in the dining room, living room area, and she took the boys and put them down for a nap, and she came back out and asked if I could bring them a vacuum because their vacuum cleaner had broke, and also get food and bring back whenever I came.
And this is sometime that afternoon,
Yes.
and you left from that apartment around 10 a.m. Is that accurate?
Yes. Somewhere between 10 and 10:30.
And when you went back, did you see, was Grant Hayes there as well?
Whenever I went back and dropped off the vacuum, I called my mom before I got there and asked her to please send Grant downstairs to help me carry up the vacuum and the food.
Okay. Prior to that, though, when you came back with the boys from Monkey Joe's and Linwood Grill, did you see Grant there at that time?
I don't remember.
At that point, do you leave and go to get a vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you go to get a vacuum cleaner?
Because my mom had said that their vacuum cleaner had broke.
And what color was their vacuum cleaner?
Yellow.
And did you go and get your vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
And did you go to bring them food as well?
Yes.
And where'd you go to get the food?
Wendy's.
And did you get food for Grant and Amanda?
Yes.
And so when you get back there, do you recall what time that was after you'd gone and gotten the vacuum cleaner and come back?
It was rush hour traffic, and I was living all the way downtown, and they lived in North Raleigh, and so it probably took me about an hour. So I'm going to say left their apartment somewhere between 4:30 and 5, got back there somewhere between 5:30 and 6.
When you came back with the vacuum, did you see your mom cleaning the house?
No, she met me in the dining room, and I set the food down on the dining room table. Grant had the vacuum, and I set everything down and was trying to get out of there because I was irritated, wanted to go home. She gave me a hug, said thank you, I love you very much, and I left.
Back when you were interviewed, did you tell detectives that when you came back, it was probably 5 o'clock and the boys were down, laying down, taking a nap, and your mom was cleaning the house?
I think I assumed that she was cleaning the house because of her asking for a vacuum.
Okay. And you told them that everybody was there?
As far as
Grant, the boys, Lily, and
yes.
your mom? Okay. And you said that, I guess at this point you're a little irritated because your entire day has been taken by taking the kids to Monkey Joe's.
Yes.
And then after you bring them back to the house, you're gonna have to go across town to get a vacuum cleaner and bring them back.
Yes.
And what did your vacuum cleaner look like?
It was burgundy or maroon.
Okay. All right, can I approach the witness?
You may.
Can I approach the clerk?
You may.
Shay, this is a Marcy States Exhibit 41. Just looking at the top of this, do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is this?
It's my mom's vacuum.
Okay. And then
Can you repeat the number, because I couldn't hear with the bag?
I'm sorry, 41. And actually, let's mark that States Exhibit 41A. A41. States Exhibit A41 is appear to be your mother's vacuum cleaner.
Yes.
And actually, States Exhibit A40. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And whose vacuum cleaner is that?
Mine.
Your Honor, this time I moved State's Exhibit A41 and A40 of evidence.
Let me proceed.
Okay, starting with, I guess, State's Exhibit A40. This maroon vacuum cleaner, that was your vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
Give me the number.
This yellow one, that was with that vacuum cleaner. How long did you stay in that apartment?
5 minutes or less.
When you were in that apartment that Thursday afternoon after you came back with the vacuum cleaner, did you, aside from cleaning and boxes, did you notice anything else going on?
No.
And at that point, your mother had told you that the reason for cleaning and packing up was to move on Saturday to Kinston?
Yes.
After you did that on that Thursday, did you go home and resume your day?
Yes.
On that Friday, July 15th, did you talk to your mother that morning?
Yes, I believe so. She had asked me about having Matt install a hitch on their Dodge Durango.
Okay. Did she say why they needed to install a hitch on the Durango?
For a trailer to move.
And what happened with respect to the conversation about that hitch on the Dodge Durango?
I said, as far as I know, he can, but you'll have to talk to him because I have no idea what he's going to need or when he can do it.
Okay. And who is Matt?
My husband.
Okay. And so did you hand the phone to Matt?
I did.
And did Matt and presumably your mother discuss that trailer hitch?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, you hear that, what did you hear happen?
Pretty much he got irritated and said that they could go to another place and have it done. He wasn't going to be able to do it until Saturday if he was even going to do it because of his job.
Later that Friday, did you talk with your mother again on the phone?
Yes.
And do you remember your phone number at that time?
It was 917-744-7499 maybe.
When you talked to her later that day, do you remember around what time it was?
I was cooking dinner.
And what did you hear when you spoke to your mother that evening?
She said that they weren't going to be moving the next day because Laura didn't show up to pick up the kids in Wilson.
You heard Grant walk in the door. Did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what did you hear Grant say?
I didn't hear him necessarily say, but I did hear him talking in the background. I couldn't make out what he was saying. But I heard him walk in the door, and within just a few seconds, my mom said I had to go.
Okay. And your mom called you that evening, correct?
Yes.
So your mom calls you, and on the phone you hear Grant say something, and then she tells you that Laura didn't come to pick up the kids?
Before I heard Grant talking, that's what she had told me.
Okay. And so, did she tell you that because Laura hadn't shown up to pick up the kids, that they weren't going to be able to move that Saturday?
Yes.
That next day, Saturday, July 16th, you talked to your mother that evening, correct?
Yes.
And just to be clear, at this point, you haven't talked to Grant Hayes at all.
No.
Your mom's the one calling.
Yes.
And that Saturday night at around 10:30, she calls you.
Yes.
And what does she tell you?
That they are thinking about going to Texas to visit my aunt, and I said something to the effect of, well, I want to go with you. I haven't seen my aunt or my cousins in a couple of years, and I want to go with you.
Okay, and what happens with that request?
She got mad at me and told me to stop being selfish, that she had just lost her mother and had a baby and she needed her big sister.
At some point, did you find out that they left that Saturday night?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you find out that your mother left for Texas that Saturday night?
I kept trying to call her over the next 24 hours.
And what would happen when you would call your mother's phone?
It would either ring and ring or it would go straight to voicemail. When she did answer, she was busy and would call me back.
And this is that Sunday, July 17th?
Yes.
And that Sunday morning, you actually called your aunt, Karen Berry, isn't that right?
I believe it was Monday morning.
Okay. At some point, did you call your aunt and Amanda and Grant were there in Texas?
Yes, Monday morning.
Okay. Before that, did you call your aunt at some point and talk to your aunt about where Amanda and Grant were?
Yes, I did, because once my mom had told me that that's where they were planning on going and I couldn't get in touch with her, I would call my aunt to find out if she had heard from them.
Okay. When you talked to your aunt, Karen Berry mentioned that Grant and Amanda were keeping their phones off to save the battery.
Yes.
Did you try calling Grant Hayes' phone as well?
Yes.
And you couldn't get in touch with either Grant or Amanda?
No.
And that was Sunday, July 17th?
Yes.
And at some point, did you find out that Grant and Amanda had taken an antique piece of furniture that, I guess, sort of belonged to you?
Yes.
And where'd you get that piece of furniture?
Nikki left it to my mother and I.
And could you describe it?
It was, at one point we were looking at selling it, and I had done some research through an antique dealer, and basically it was an 18th century piece of furniture out of a castle in England.
And where was that, prior to this weekend, where was that piece of furniture stored?
In a storage unit,
And where was that storage unit?
on Glenwood Avenue.
Did you have access to it?
Yes.
Did your mother have access to it?
Yes.
And that piece of furniture, I guess, is it called a hutch?
Yes, it could be.
Okay.
It had a piece of green granite or marble on top of it, so it was either a hutch or a wet bar, or it could have been used for a number of things.
That piece of furniture with the granite on it, was it heavy?
Yes.
Could you lift it by yourself?
No.
Would it require two people to move it?
Yes.
When did you first find out that that piece of furniture had been taken to Texas?
After speaking with my aunt, I think,
And your aunt told you what?
that my mom wanted to bring it there for safekeeping.
That surprised you?
Yes, to some extent, because it wasn't in any danger being in the storage unit where it had been for a few months.
You said it had been in that storage unit for a few months. What else is in that storage unit?
Pretty much everything out of our apartment in New York. Whenever my mom and Grant had moved to North Carolina, my mom furnished the apartment that they moved into.
Was that hutch in New York with you?
Yes.
Okay. And so when Grant and Amanda moved out of New York earlier in 2010, is that right?
May.
May of 2010, they had taken that hutch and all the furniture back down to North Carolina?
No, it stayed in New York with me till October.
I mean, you moved from New York back to North Carolina, and you actually moved in with them, is that correct?
Yes.
You brought that hutch down,
Yes.
and that's when it ended up in the storage place?
Yes.
So from October of 2010 to, I guess, this point, which is in July of 2011, that hutch was in the storage facility?
Yes.
Okay. And when Grant and Amanda moved down to North Carolina, you kept the hutch in New York?
Yes.
And is that because it had some value to you, some meaning to you?
It was in the house that I grew up in Austin, or right outside of Boston, so there was no reason in really moving it at that point until I moved out.
Did that, I guess, were you surprised that your mother took that hutch to Texas?
Yes.
After that, I guess that Sunday, you talked to your aunt, but you never talked to your mother, is that right?
No.
Okay. And that's a bad question. You attempted to speak to your mother, but you were never able to?
Yes.
Okay. The next time you were able to speak to your mother was on that Monday, July 18th?
Yes.
And at some point that Monday morning, you called your aunt's phone number down in Texas?
Her house number, yes.
And that's Karen Berry.
Yes.
And when you talked to her, did you actually end up speaking to Grant before, the little boy?
I don't remember exactly. I remember calling her and asking if my mother was there, and she told me to hold on. And then I spoke with my mother for just a minute, and I could hear Lily crying in the background, and she said that she was getting the kids fed, that they had just got there, and she would call me back.
At this point, Lily is around a month old.
4.5 weeks.
Okay. And so, from what you could tell, Amanda and Grant, the two little boys and the month-old infant, had made it to Texas.
Yes.
And is that when you found out that that piece of furniture, the hutch, was in Texas as well?
Yes.
How did you find that out? Did your mother tell you?
I can't remember if my mother told me or my aunt told me, but somebody told me that that's what was going on.
And this is on that Monday, July 17th?
Um,
I'm sorry,
the
July
18th, yeah.
At some point, did you actually go to that storage facility on Glenwood to see if it was gone?
Yes, but not until after the police had released it.
Okay. Was that sometime after the Wednesday of that week?
The Wednesday of that week, which would have been the 20th.
Yeah, I guess to jump ahead a little bit, on that Wednesday of that week, at some point did you talk to police
Yes, I had 2 detectives show up at my front door.
early in the morning and take you down to talk to you?
9:30.
Okay. At that point, when you had spoken to them, had you already gone to the storage facility?
No.
So I guess going back to that Monday, did you have a chance to talk with Amanda extensively that Monday?
I don't believe so.
That Tuesday, July 19th, again, were you calling down there trying to speak with Amanda?
Yes.
And all the phone calls that whenever you call down there to Karen's phone or Amanda's phone or Grant's phone, they're all really short phone calls, weren't they?
Yes.
And on that Tuesday morning, Amanda called you and said you need to go to the apartment right now.
Yes.
And were you just rolling out of bed when that happened?
No, I think it was a little bit later in the morning.
Okay. And you told her, I need a half an hour, and she said, no, I need you to go right
I know that that was the day that someone was coming to look at some of the furniture in the house.
And so do you go over to Grant and Amanda's apartment?
Yes.
And when you walk into that apartment, do you smell anything?
It smells like bleach, really strong.
And do you see or notice anything with the carpet in that apartment?
As soon as you walk in the door, there's a place on the carpet where there's a towel laying over it, and it's a huge bleach stain on the carpet, and the towel smells like it was soaked in bleach.
And that bleach spot that you're referring to, were you in court the other day when there was a picture of it?
No.
You're our Pembroke's witness.
You may.
I'll show you States Exhibit 74, which is a picture of the doorway. Is that the bleach spot that you're referring to?
Yes.
Had you smelled that bleach when you were in that apartment the week before on Thursday, July 14th?
No.
Going back to that July 19th, that Tuesday, what was the purpose that you went over to Grant and Amanda's apartment?
There was somebody from Craigslist coming to look at some of the furniture to purchase.
And when you were, I guess, talking with your mom that morning, because you heard the baby crying in the background,
Yes.
um, do you recall that conversation with Amanda?
There was somebody coming to look at some of the furniture. This was the person's phone number, and I needed to go to the apartment because they were on their, they were on their way over there.
And at that point, that was the first time in a while that you had talked to Amanda, isn't that right?
Yes.
All the other phone calls had been incredibly shorter, it had been with Karen.
Yes.
And so it's the first time you get to talk to Amanda since she's up and gone to Texas, and she tells you you need to go over to the apartment to meet these folks who are looking to buy furniture.
Yes.
And she told you that she was really busy and that she would talk to you later.
Yes.
So what happens at that point when you're in Grant and Amanda's apartment that has a strong smell of bleach?
I walked in and I opened the sliding glass door in the living room. I went to the boys' bedroom. I opened their bedroom window. I went into my mother's bedroom and opened her bedroom windows, trying to air out the house.
At that point, what else did you do?
I picked up the towel off of the floor and put it on top of the washer in the closet behind the front door. I was walking around the house looking around. It just was really strange to me that the house smelled like bleach. My mom doesn't use bleach to clean. It gives us a migraine.
Okay. At some point, did those folks who were supposed to come and look at the furniture, did they show up?
Yes.
And before they arrived, did you do anything?
I did. I had no idea who was coming to look at the furniture. At this point, I was a 22-year-old, 105-pound girl. I took 2 knives out of the kitchen and put them in the top drawers of both nightstands in the bedroom. I didn't want to put myself in a situation to get cornered in a bedroom from somebody off of Craigslist. I had no idea who was coming in there.
Were you sort of upset at this point that
Yeah.
you're not in your house and Amanda's invited someone from Craigslist over?
Yeah,
Okay. Did those folks show up?
they did.
And when was the first time that you saw the folks from Craigslist?
I was standing out on the balcony, and whenever the guy got out of his car, I recognized him. He was a musician that played at the bar that I worked at.
And what was his name?
Johnny?
Okay. And so you recognized Johnny, And does he come up and look at that furniture?
Yes.
And does he decide to purchase the furniture?
Yes. The love seat and the couch in the living room.
The love seat and the couch in the living room? And how does he have a truck when he comes over there the first time?
No, a car.
Okay. So what does he give you money, or does he go get a truck, or what happens?
He made a phone call. I'm assuming he was talking to Grant, negotiating a price for both couches, and he gave me half of the cash and said that he was going to go get something to eat, and then he would wait for his friend with the van to come back and help him load the couches.
And at this point, the closets in that house are still full, aren't they?
Yes.
And there's still toys out all over the place?
Yes.
When he gives you that money, what do you do with it?
I called my mom and I told my mom that I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was like $400 or something.
Was it like $700?
I think it was all together. It was like 700 or something, but I remember that I had part of it, and I told her that he was going to give me the other half whenever he came back and picked them up, and she told me that she wanted me to go to the bank and deposit it, and I said, okay, whenever he gives me the other half, I'll go and I'll make one deposit, and she said, no, I need you to go make this deposit now.
So what did you do at that point?
I went to the bank.
And did you have a deposit slip for Amanda's bank account?
I just filled out a deposit slip at the bank and wrote her name on it, and they deposited the money into her account.
Okay. And then later, did you go back to the apartment and collect the rest?
Yes.
And the couch and the love seat were moved out of the apartment?
And as soon as he got the love seat out of the apartment, I left.
At some point while you were talking with your mom that day, did you hear any more discussion about moving in with Grant's parents?
Not that I recall.
Okay. At some point that week, did you become aware that Amanda and Grant were going to move back to Kinston?
I knew that that's what the plan was. When it was happening, I'm not sure.
And did you end up depositing the second half of that money?
Yes.
And did you do it as soon as you got it again?
Yes.
Now, on that Wednesday, July 20th, did you talk with Amanda again?
Wednesday was the day that the police had showed up at my house, and I was questioned by them for a couple of hours. When I got out of there, I had called Matt, and him and I were living together at the time, and I told him that the police had picked me up from the house and that they were talking to me about where my mom was.
That morning, did you talk with Amanda, and she said that they were in Texas and on their way back?
That was after I had gotten out from the police. Matt had actually called my aunt's house and asked to speak with my mom, and he had told her, I don't know what's going on, but Shay just got picked up by the police from my house, and I need to know what I need to do. And he told me that my mother said, that's strange, and we're getting ready to leave, so we'll be back soon.
What is the relationship between Karen, your aunt, and Amanda, your mother, like?
They're sisters. So, if anybody has a brother or a sister, sometimes you guys drive each other crazy, and other times you can't survive without the other one.
You told detectives that your aunt Karen was kind of like a mother figure to Amanda.
She raised a lot of us.
And at some point later that day or later that morning, you heard from Grant Hayes as well, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And so both of those cell phones, your mom's phone and Grant's phone, those were both operating.
Yes. You know what? I'm not 100% sure because I want to say that he called me from her cell phone.
Okay. Actually, I hand you what's been marked for identification purposes as Stacy Exhibit 42, 43, and 44. Do you recognize these images?
I do.
And are those is Stacy Exhibit 42 a picture of you with the two little boys in the bathroom?
Yes.
And is that the hall bathroom in that apartment, or is that the bathroom off of the office area?
No, that's the hallway bathroom.
Okay. This is Stacy Exhibit 43. Is that with you with the little boys as well?
Yes, that was Halloween.
Okay. And I see Stacy Exhibit 44. Is that a picture of the storage facility?
Yes.
Are these all fair and accurate depictions of how that house and storage facility appeared back in 2011?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to admit State's Exhibit 42 through 44, and I'd ask to publish them at this time.
Let me receive. You may publish.
Shay, Your Honor, if I were to-
You may.
Shay, I have to show you State's Exhibit 62, this schematic of the apartment. Just to be clear, so that bleach spot that you saw on July 18th or 19th, that was near the front door, is that
Yes.
correct? And then there's two bathrooms in this apartment, is that right?
Yes.
There's a bathroom off the hallway,
Mhm.
and then there's also a bathroom if you go into this office area.
Mhm.
And the picture states Exhibit 42, that's from this hall bathroom.
Yes.
I show you states Exhibit 42. Is that you on the right side of the picture?
Yes.
And are those the little boys?
Yes.
And in this picture, this is the hallway bathroom.
Yes.
And is there a black shower curtain in that picture?
Yes.
Is there also a bath mat in that bathroom? It's a black bath mat.
Yes.
We went into that apartment on Tuesday, July 19th. Was that black shower curtain there?
No.
Was that black bath mat there?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay. Were many objects from that hall bathroom missing?
Yes.
Did you see them anyplace else in the apartment?
There was nothing in that bathroom.
The other bathroom, the one that's off the office or the other bedroom, that still had items in it, correct?
I don't really remember going in there, but that was the bathroom my mom and I shared whenever I lived there, and that was the bedroom that I lived in. And so all of our makeup and hair stuff and everything was on a normal basis strung everywhere.
Got coverage with us?
You may.
I'm showing you. Actually, you states Exhibit 43. Is that you and Little Grant and Gentle?
Yes.
And who's Grant and who's Gentle in that picture?
Grant is wearing a Lightning McQueen outfit, and Gentle is the monkey.
Okay. And those are the little boys. That Laura Ackerson was their mother.
Yes.
In this picture, behind your head, is there that vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
Is that yellow vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
There was a man named Grant.
Yes.
The one that was broken onto Thursday, July 14th?
Yes.
And is this looking down that hallway that we were just speaking of?
Yes.
And the hall bathroom is off to the right, sort of behind the kitchen?
Yes.
And Amanda's restroom was off to the left?
Yes.
Actually, it states exhibit 44. Is this the storage facility?
Yes.
And is there a whole bunch of stuff in there, I guess, that didn't fit in Grant Amanda's apartment?
Yes.
And could you indicate, there's a laser pointer to your left right there, I'll push the button. Could you indicate where the hutch was when it was in the storage facility?
When we put it in the storage facility, it was over here. The solid bottom piece was against the wall, and the taller top piece was in front of it.
So it comes apart into two pieces?
Yes.
When you went over to that storage facility, do you remember what day it was?
I want to say that it was sometime in the beginning of August because I believe I had met one of the detectives to get keys to the storage unit because they had to cut the lock off.
Okay. So it was after detectives had gone to the storage unit?
Yes.
So that hutch wasn't there when you went there?
No.
At some point, you originally talked to detectives sometime during the week of July 18th. Is that correct? That Wednesday morning would have been July 20th. Do you think you spoke to detectives July 20th?
Yes.
Okay. You're pretty sure it was that Wednesday morning?
Yes.
Okay. At some other point, did detectives call you back up and ask you some more questions?
Yes. I believe it was either the next day or Friday. I know it was within just a day or two.
And some days later, that they called you and asked about the bleach smell as well?
Yes.
And at some point, you went back to Grant Amanda's apartment, is that right?
Yes.
And I guess, at what point did you find out that Laura Ackerson was missing?
That day whenever police had picked me up and started asking me questions, I immediately asked them if Laura was missing.
Okay. After that day, did you discover or learn that Laura was dead?
I realized that Laura was dead whenever the news on Sunday night.
Okay, and let's not go into what the news might have reported because it could be accurate, could be inaccurate, but at some point you found out Laura was dead?
Yes.
Okay. After you found that out, did you end up going back to Grant Amanda's apartment?
Yes, I did. No, because I knew that police, I had already been notified that police had searched the apartment, and I was basically just told that, I should stay away from the apartment or not go in there.
Okay. At some point prior to police, I guess, searching that apartment and having that discussion with you, did you go back to Grant Amanda's apartment and find some things there?
I think it was whenever I was actually packing up the apartment after they were arrested.
Okay. Eric, I've heard you witness.
All right.
So do you recall what you gave detectives after you'd gone over to Grant Amanda's apartment?
Yes.
And what was that?
I found a number of different cell phones in a drawer, and I put them in a bag and gave them to detectives. And I was going through a stack of papers on the counter, and I found a manual for a handsaw.
Okay. Eric, I've heard you witness.
You may.
Cheyenne has been marked as Stacy's Exhibit A45 for identification purposes. Do you recognize this item that's contained therein?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the manual for the saw that you found in the Grant and Amanda's apartment?
Yes.
And does it appear to be in the same condition as when you found it?
Yes.
All right, this time I move Stacy's Exhibit A45 into evidence.
Let be received.
And Shay, just for purpose of the record, is this a saw for a skill reciprocating? Is this a manual for a skill reciprocating saw?
Yes.
That saw manual was in a stack of papers,
Yes.
and that was it hidden someplace?
It was on the countertop.
So there's a saw manual on the countertop of that apartment.
Yes.
Inside that apartment, we're talking about the bathrooms, and we just saw a picture of the little boys in that bathroom. Those boys were in the hall bathroom, is that correct?
Yes.
And your coverage witness again.
All right.
Actually, it states it at 62. That's this bathroom behind the kitchen.
Yes.
Who primarily used that bathroom?
The boys in Grant.
Okay. And what bathroom would Amanda you primarily use?
The bathroom in there. Yes.
Okay. And this bedroom was Grant and Amanda's bedroom?
Yes.
And this bedroom were the boys' bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And this bedroom was the office one that had all sorts of stuff in it that we saw earlier?
Yes. Whenever I lived there, it was my bedroom.
Okay. And you hadn't lived there in how long?
I moved out in February.
Okay. So 5 months or so?
Yes.
At some point, did you also give detectives a song recording?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you give detectives a song recording?
Because I thought it was relevant.
Okay. Erica, first witness.
You may.
Shay, Andrew's been marked as State's Exhibit 496A and 497A. Actually, I'm sorry, A496 and A497. Is this the CD of that song?
Yes.
Is this the transcript of that song?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to enter into evidence State's Exhibit A497 and A496.
Let be received.
Shay, why did you believe that? I guess, did you work as Grant Hayes' assistant in his music career for a while?
I did.
And when was the first time that you heard this song?
We recorded it in New York in January or February of 2010.
Okay. And what was the subject of that song?
Laura,
And what's the name of that song?
broomstick rider.
Okay. What's the subject of the song about Laura?
Basically, it's about
I guess, is it not a positive view of Laura?
no.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, Pat Public States Exhibit 496 and 497.
I think you said we recorded it. I mean, who's making the record?
Grant.
Grant. Okay. Very well. You may publish. How you intend to do that?
Via the projector.
Okay.
That's right. You must have told your attorney I got intentions on killing you. This order might stop me, my bullets, and get you some of my dudes from way back. They still owe me money. Told them you stayed at my mom's crib. Now ain't that funny? In my home, they wishing you were gone. Broomstick rabbits and you this song. This ain't playback, this is payback. But he's so cocaine and he's so crack. But ain't that funny? You spent that money drinking my like it was honey. If it's gonna go down, then you better get down, 'cause I don't play that. And I want you to lose the better. Just happen to be my baby's mama. Don't tell her to me, don't just drama. I got to get by you, I can't get any more from you. Lose the better. Just happen to be my baby's mama. Don't tell her to me, don't just drama. I got to get by you, I can't get any more from you.
Come on, Mom, Your Honor. When that song was recorded, you mentioned that that was back in early 2010.
Yes, I believe so.
And do you recall where Grant recorded that song?
In the living room of the apartment that we were living in New York.
And where Amanda lived as well?
Yes.
Got one moment, Your Honor.
All right.
Did you have any dealings with Laura Ackerson?
Via email,
Not face to face.
switching the kids once we moved to North Carolina. Other than that, not really.
And to drive from Raleigh to Wilson, about how much time does that take?
About an hour.
Okay, so every Friday, Amanda or Grant or you would have to. Did you ever take the kids by yourself?
No.
Okay, so every Friday, Amanda or Grant would have to drive an hour to Wilson to exchange the boys off.
Yes.
Were you aware of the custody dispute that was going on?
Yes.
And that custody dispute required Amanda and Grant to pay some money to a child custody evaluator.
Yes.
And at that point, Amanda and Grant didn't have a lot of money. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And additionally, when this was going on, Laura Ackerson was calling Amanda and Grant at least 2 times a day to talk to the boys.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, what, I know y'all been back in here since 11, but we actually been in session since 10 o'clock, so we're gonna take, for the court personnel, we're gonna take about a 10-minute break. So just leave your notes in your chair. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant or any matter of controversy. Be careful about your conduct. Just take about 10 minutes and then come on back in the jury room and we'll reassemble. Just so you can stretch your legs just a minute and give our staff a little bit of a break. We'll be back in session in about 10 minutes. Thank you.